Welcome to Sleepy Jean. I'm starting a new book today. It's called The Boy I Love by Lynda Bellingham. Hope you help it helps you sleep. Okay, let's see. The boy I love is up in the gallery. The boy I love's looking now at me. There he is, can't you see, waving his handkerchief as merry as a robin that sings on a tree. George Ware, 1885, sung by Marie Lloyd. Enter stage left, Act 1, Chapter 1. Oh, Mr. Porter, what shall I do? I want to go to Birmingham, and they are taking me into Crewe. Send me back to London as quickly as you can. Oh, Mr. Potter, what a silly girl I am. September 1982. Sally Thomas swallowed hard and smiled bravely at the as the whistle blew and the train began to pull out of the station. She gave a final wave to her family standing the barrier and already a blur, and sat down with a bump as the train picked up speed. Oh, Mr. Potter, what shall I do? The old Victorian music hall song rang in her ears as she gazed out at the beautiful cream stone building at Cheltenham, her hometown. It looked so picture perfect in the early morning sun. Traces of autumn tinged the leaves in red and gold, and there were flashes of burnt orange from the creepers that draped themselves over the house like garlands. The girl could not help but think how different the landscape would be in Crewe, from gold to grey. Still, she would learn to love the difference between the two and make it her home for the next 6 months. Her first professional job as an actress. In July, Sally had managed to get an early audition for the upcoming season by physically taking herself to meet the director in Crewe, rather than waiting in line down in London with hundreds of other hopefuls. Her temerity had gained her a place in the company, and now, as she fell asleep to the rhythm of the train, she dreamed of bright lights and velvet curtains and her first introduction to Crewe Theatre just a few short months ago. July. She was shaken awake as the train shuddered to a halt at platform 1, Crewe station. As she stepped down from the train, Sally was overwhelmed by the size of the place. High above her, steel girders rose in Gothic splendour, just like a cathedral. Her ears were bombarded with a cacophony of noises: engine grinding, whistle blowing, brakes screeching, and the endless rumble of humanity. A river of people flowing towards the exit or breaking through to platform to find their trains. Sally began to think she might have misjudged Crewe as just a town up north. The station at least seemed to be the centre of the universe. She joined the other passengers and was swept along to the exit and out to the taxi rank, where things were much calmer and quieter, thank goodness. She hailed a taxi and asked for the theatre. Is it far? She inquired, hoping the answer would be negative, as her finances were tight, to say the least. No, lass, just up the hill, hopping. You working there? Asked the cab driver, looking at her in his driving mirror as she sat in the seat. I hope to be, yes, Sally replied shyly. I have got an audition today, as a matter of fact, so fingers crossed. Well, good luck to you, lass. You will do just fine. No more than 5 minutes later, the taxi slowed and stopped outside a beautiful Victorian theatre. It shone like a beacon to Sally. No matter the street was a little shabby, and next door there was a very run-down Chinese takeaway. To Sally, it was a gateway to all her dreams. She paid the driver and thanked him for his good wishes, then got out and turned to the front doors. Putting down her suitcase, she pulled on the handle, only to discover that it was locked. She pressed her nose to the glass, shielded her eyes with her hands to peer into the darkness. There was no sign of life. Great, sighed Sally. Now what? She looked up the street and was greeted by grey stone terrace houses and a stray dog checking out a lamp post. Stepping back from the entrance, she told herself, there has to be a stage door round the back somewhere. Sure enough, she spotted an opening at the end of the front of the theatre building. So picking up her things, she set off to investigate. The gate proved to be a narrow alleyway, and halfway down was a battered sign hanging from the wall, stage door. What a sigh of relief. Sally pushed open the door and stepped into a dimly lit corridor. She ventured further in, expecting to meet a little stage doorman, or woman for that matter. Hello, anybody around? She called out. There was a small kiosk with a sliding glass window and an empty chair. It was lit by a table lamp with a red silk shade, which had long since seen better days in someone's boudoir. Sally thought it looked very incongruous. Stuck in the little corner, a 2-bar electric fire was glowing gaily, and piles of newspaper lay on the floor, but nobody was there to answer her call. She followed her nose and then the sign in big red letters painted on the wall leading down the stairs to the stage. Silence. The staircase wound round and down, and at the bottom there was a heavy wooden door. Sally pulled on the handle, opened it, and stepped into the almost darkness on stage. She could just make out a dim light in the far corner, presumably from the prompt corner. She tiptoed towards it, keeping an ear out for any sounds of life. She caught the odd word from someone whispering somewhere nearby, but could not quite make out who was talking. She moved towards 2 black curtains and found herself right out on the stage. Suddenly a light hit her between the eyes like a laser, and she was completely blinded for a few seconds. Sorry, she called out. Is there someone there? My name is Sally Thomas, and I have come for an audition. Please take the light off me, as I can't see a thing. She moved towards the front of the stage, trying to get out of the spotlight, and peered out into the auditorium. She could see nothing because she had spots in front of her eyes. Then, as her vision slowly adjusted, she felt a presence up to her left, and there in the box she could make out a figure standing just inside the doorway. There was a red glow, burning in the dark, and the faint hint of her tobacco. But before she could speak, a voice filled the theatre with liquid gold. Sally had never heard such an incredible voice. Sorry, young lady, didn't mean to frighten you. We have trouble with the lighting board. Who did you say you were again? Sally Thomas. And you, Giles Longfellow, by any chance? Are you Giles Longfellow by any chance? Sally was regaining her composure and feeling ready to present herself. After all, she had come a long way for this audition and had no intention of messing it up. Yes, indeed I am. Eric, are you still up there? Giles Longfellow called up to the gods to where his lighting man was perched on a fallow spot trying to adjust the bulb. A voice waved from the darkness. Yes, governor. All sorted. Be down in a tick. Thank you, Eric. Now, young lady, what are you going to do for me? The man in the box leaned over the rails towards Sally, and she felt she could almost reach up and touch him. Suddenly all the house lights came on, and the full beauty of the theatre revealed itself. It was like a wedding cake of pink and white stucco. The red plush seats and the gleaming brass rails set off the intricate plasterwork on the walls and the boxes, rising to a ceiling that was covered in cherubs and flowers. A huge crystal chandelier set shafts of light down onto the seat below, like rays of sunshine piercing a dark forest. Sally gasped and looked back. Sally gasped and looked back up to the box from whence came Giles' richly mellow voice again. Young lady, did you hear me? You look like a frightened rabbit. He stepped back and sat down. Sally gave him her full attention at once and announced with as much aplomb as she could muster, I would like to do Portia's speech from The Merchant of Venice. The quality of mercy is not strained. Very well, continue. The girl walked to the centre of the stage and took a deep breath. This was the moment she had trained for and lived for, her first proper audition for the professional theatre. Sally had left drama school 6 months ago and had spent the intervening time writing to dozens of repertory theatres throughout the country. Some responded, but most never did. It had proved very disheartening in the main, but Sally was determined and driven, and was not going to give up easily. She has managed to get a job at the British Drama League in Fitzroy Square, London. It was an extraordinary place, a cross between a library and advice centre for foreign students, offering drama courses and training for stage management. It also had offices for various departments in theatre, from the technical staff to visiting directors, and was a popular venue for theatres to hold auditions. Sally manned the ancient telephone switchboard, which was like a puzzle for wiring aficionados. Each line had a connection, but oh, how often did she put the wrong plug in the wrong hole? Bear with me, caller, was her cry du coeur all day long. I'm so sorry, sir, you have been disconnected. By the end of a busy day, Sally would be distraught, but her boss, a lovely man called James Langton, was ever ready to offer her encouragement. James had always been associated with the theatre in some way. Sally was never sure if he had been an actor himself years ago. He certainly had theoretically 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 about him, and great charm. James ran the drama league like an historic institution and had taken Sally and another young actor, Jeremy Sinclair, under his wing. Every time a theatre booked the rehearsal room to hold auditions, he would ring down and inform them both. This meant that the two actors would ensure that at some point they were able to insinuate themselves into a position to get an audition. Sally used to wait until the director had seen everybody, and then she would appear at the door and announce that what a coincidence, she was an actress and not a telephone operator after all, and would they please let her audition. Most of the time it worked a treat, but so far she had not managed to get a job. Then one afternoon Mr. Langdon had come down to her little booth and informed her that Crew Theatre would soon be holding auditions for its new season starting in September, and that she should write or phone. Sally wasted no time. She immediately rang the theatre and was told that the director, Giles Longfellow, would indeed be coming down to London to the BDL to hold auditions. But if she was able to come up to Crewe before then, he would be delighted to see her in situ, as it were. Seizing this opportunity to get in early, she made an appointment for the following week. Now, here she was, standing on the stage at Crewe, launching into her audition piece with gusto. Halfway through, however, Giles Longfellow called down from the box, "Thank you, my dear, that will do. Can you sing?" Sally was completely thrown by this question, not because she couldn't sing, but because he had not let her finish her speech. She stammered, "Yes, I can." "Then away you go," came the response from above. Sally sang the Victorian music hall song, "The Boy I Love," made famous by the great Marie Lloyd. It was a good choice, as she could sing it unaccompanied. Her strong, clear soprano voice filled the auditorium with a sweet, affecting melody and was rewarded by a hand clap from the director. "Well done! Delightful! Stay there, I'm coming down." And Giles disappeared. Sally admired yet again the elegance of the box and noted that there was a coat of arms on the front. The royal box. How very appropriate for the flamboyant Giles Longfellow, she decided. Maybe one day she would be singing to royalty in the box. Her daydream was interrupted by the arrival of the director. "You do well, my dear, and I am very pleased to say I think we can offer you a place in our company next season. You are not experienced enough to play leads, but depending on how well you adapt and how hard you work, I can certainly promise you some decent roles, and thanks to your fine singing voice, I see you in some of our musical productions. It does mean you will have to accept some stage management work, but at least you'll get your 42 weeks in the theatre, which will make you eligible for full equity card. Do you have an agent, by the way?" Sally had not managed to attract the attention of an agent so far, but she had discussed this with Mr. Langton, and he had offered to advise her, should the need arise, on the financial side of things. So bearing this in mind, she replied, "No, but I have a manager called James Langton, and he said he will deal with the fee if that is convenient to you, sir." "James Langton is as in the British Drama League?" Giles looked amused. Yes, do you know him?" asked Sally. "Absolutely, my dear, we are old friends. But what is his interest in you, may I ask?" Sally was not sure which way this conversation should be going, but decided that honesty was the best policy. "I worked in reception at the BDL," she explained, "and Mr. Langton very kindly helps me find auditions, etc. while I'm working there. He has been so supportive and told me that any time I need advice he would help me, so I just thought to mention him to you with respect of salary or whatever. I hope that is all right." "Of course, no problem at all. I will talk to him as soon as possible. Thank you for coming all this way, dear, and I look forward to welcoming you to the new company in September." "Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Longfellow. I'm thrilled to be working for you and I." But he was gone, disappeared like a magician, without the puff of smoke, although the smell of his cigar drifted across the footlights like a long-lost memory. Sally's heart was thumping. She had her first job going to the footlights. She took in the auditorium one last time from top to bottom. She loved it, and then she looked at the royal box and blew a kiss. Chapter 2. Giles Longfellow was ambitious, but he was also weak. He had talent, but lacked the iron will to pursue his dreams to the ultimate conclusion. All his life he had been led by his heart, well, his nether regions, to be absolutely blunt. He would fall wildly in love and indulge every emotional level of his intellect and physical need. This would last for months, or sometimes only weeks, but it drained him of all his energy and left him reeling. In his youth, it had cost him a promising career as an actor, because he would lose all interest in a job if the mood for love took him over, and employers soon realized he was a liability, not only because his stagecraft suffered, as His concentration wavered, but on one particular occasion, his pursuit of happiness with one individual had led to accusations of rape, and he had only just escaped jail. James Langton was remembering the incident now. He and Giles did not know each other that well, but had agreed to meet after James had rung Giles' secretary to discuss Sally Thomas' contract for the upcoming season. You went through a very bad patch a few years back, I seem to recall, mused James, over a very fine dinner at the Garrick Club. Oh God, yes, it was a pretty close thing, but I was bowed out by the lovely Lord Graham. We had been friends ever since. Giles did not add that they were also lovers on and off. After the police arrested Giles for indecently assaulting a young man, Lord Edward Graham had stepped in and paid off the boy and his parents and pulled strings with the Commissioner of Police. He and Giles had then had an affair, but unlike most of Giles' romantic attachment, it had not fizzled out or ended dramatically, but every now and then had renewed itself. Lord Graham was married to money and had managed to father 3 children, most importantly an heir and a spare, as they say in those rarefied social circles. This secured the marriage and the family seat, which was a beautiful 100-room stately home in Cheshire. Teddy was able, in the main, to keep his preference under wraps, but when the need arose, he would stay down in London at his club and seek out Giles Longfellow, who, after his run-in with the authorities, had also had to keep himself in check. Both men enjoyed each other's company, and although it was hardly a relationship based on passion, it served them both well. Giles finally decided to focus on his career as a director and was offered the post at Crewe 5 years ago. Edward Graham's country pile was just up the road, so it seemed the perfect post for the time being at any rate, as he became more confident as a director thanks to his work at Crewe. So Giles' ambition returned. This season he wanted to make his mark and head for the West End and perhaps a post with the Royal Shakespeare Company. He had proven himself with several productions at Crewe and surprisingly run the financial side at a profit with the help of an Arts Council aid grant. However, in order to achieve the kind of production that would turn heads in his direction, he was going to need extra cash to lure some exciting talent up to Crewe. Lord Graham was his golden ticket. Teddy had become a patron of the arts, in particular of Crewe Theatre, and had pledged financial support to Giles for his new season. So Giles was down in London to court a young actor called Rupert Hallam, who was making waves in theatrical circles to persuade him to come to Crewe to do Hamlet. The rest of the cast would fall into place if Giles secured the young man. God knows there were enough actors to choose from, and he already chosen Sally Thomas. I liked her because she showed pluck coming all the way to see me. She gave a consummate performance, maybe not glittering, but she has a good singing voice, and I need that in the company, as I am hoping to do 2 or 3 music-based productions. A revival of The Boyfriend, a Victorian musical hall show, and of course, a pantomime at Christmas. I have told the girls that she will have to do some stage management at first, until I can really see her strength, but I promised her she would get her chance, and of course, she would be official understudy too. Giles took a sip of very expensive Bordeaux. As James was paying the bill, he had offered to choose the wine. James couldn't hide his pride and delight for his protege. Oh, believe me, she is thrilled and quite understands the situation. I am very grateful to you, Giles. Actually, I have another young actor. I would be very pleased if you could audition and give me your thoughts. His name is Jeremy Sinclair, and he works for me part-time in the reference library. James refilled Giles Longfellow's glass. Giles regarded the other man for a few moments and then said, "Is it love, James?" James Langdon blushed deeply and spluttered, "Good God, no. I'm not like that. You know I am not. Whatever gave you that idea? I have a wife and I am a respectable married man. Giles, you are outrageous to suggest such a thing." Giles burst out laughing. "All right, calm down, for goodness sakes, man. It was just a thought. You don't have to hide things from someone like me." But James interrupted him. "Please, stop this at once. I will not tolerate such accusation. I try to help some young actors, male and female, because it is such a tough profession, and I see them every day at the Drama League struggling to survive. My interest is purely artistic. patronage, if you will, nothing more. Fine, we will leave it at that, and I apologize if I have offended you, James. Now drink up and let's order another bottle, and you can give me some suggestions for a drama. Later that evening, James let himself into his neat suburban terrace house in Finchley. He crept into his tiny study, closed the door behind him, and opened the bottle of brandy on the sideboard. He poured himself a large one and went to sit in his favourite armchair, taking a generous sip of the golden nectar. He closed his eyes and daydreamed of young buttocks in rugby shorts. Jeremy was a beautiful specimen, he had to admit, if only. Sally could hardly contain her excitement when she turned up for work at the British Drama League on Monday morning. She was the first to arrive after Geordie, the caretaker, who could be heard in the kitchen at the back of the building, whistling a Beatles tune. She called out to him, "Geordie, did you pick up the post?" She switched on the light in the hallway, as it was always dark. The combination of Victorian tiles and dark green paint made the whole place very depressing and a tad Dickinson. Sally imagined Uriah Heep appearing in a doorway, smiling uncontentiously at her, rubbing his hands. Instead, she was greeted halfway down the hall by the rather portly figure of Geordie in the russet brown overalls and flat cap. "Morning, miss. How are you this morning?" he asked her as he handed her the post. "You seem right chirpy, if I may say so. Good weekend, was it?" He gave her a very theatrical wink and tapped the side of his nose. He looked so ridiculous, Sally could not help bursting into laughter. "Oh, Geordie, you really are the pits. You have such a dirty mind." Geordie feigned offence. "Now, miss, please, how can you say that to me? I mean no harm, just trying to be friendly like, that's all." He turned and disappeared into the gloom on his way back to the kitchen to put the kettle on, for the first of many cups of tea and coffee are consumed throughout the day by the inhabitants of number 9 Fitzroy Square. Sally unlocked her tiny cubicle and found herself feeling quite nostalgic. No more early mornings on the number 13 bus to work. No more Geordie and his nudge, nudge, wink, wink greetings from next month. She would be a professional actress working in a repertory. She sat in front of her switchboard with her chin rested in her hands and dreamed of applause and footlights and bells ringing. Ringing bells meant, "Oh Lord!" She grabbed a plug and pushed it into the blinking light on the board in front of her. "British Drama League. Good morning. How may I help you?" The answer came rapidly and impatiently. "Yes, of course. I am putting you through now." She pulled out the plug and placed it in an appropriate connection. She breathed a sigh of relief as the connection was made and she could hear the recipients talking through her headphones on the desk. She had not even had time to put them on. It was going to be one of those Monday mornings, she could tell, but she did not give a hoot because life had turned a corner and she was on her way up. Thanks for listening.